I'm a big admirer of Lee Marvin. I think most people are. He's a most talented actor. He's currently starring along with Oliver Reed in Great Scout and Cathouse Thursday. That's the name of the picture, folks. Would you welcome Lee Marvin?
Lee Marvin was the ultimate tough guy, and everyone loves that on screen. But off-screen, let's just say he could be a bit too much to handle. One of his co-stars found that out the hard way, and it led to some serious drama. So much drama. This person vowed to never work with Marvin again. What went down between the Hollywood icon and his fed-up colleague? Stick around in this video to find out all the juicy details on why Lee Marvin's co-star refused to work with him again. Most Hollywood fans might still remember the name Lee Marvin, even though his prime was decades ago. But before he became an icon, he was born on February 19, 1924, in New York City, with the rather fancy full name of Lamont Waltman Marvin Jr. Growing up, things weren't exactly easy for young Marvin. School was an absolute nightmare. He struggled with ADHD and dyslexia, conditions that nobody really understood at the time. This led to a whole lot of frustration and some serious mischief. In fact, he got himself expelled after pulling a stunt that's hard to believe, throwing a classmate off a second-floor balcony. Safe to say, Marvin wasn't your typical straight-A student. But how does a rebellious kid who threw a classmate off a balcony become one of Hollywood's most iconic tough guys? The answer lies in Marvin's wild and unpredictable journey. He moved from one place to another, including a boarding school and a military academy, but he just couldn't settle in. While academics weren't his thing, Marvin thrived in the great outdoors. As a teenager, he spent many weekends hunting in the Everglades, tracking everything from deer to wild turkeys and even pumas. Those adventures didn't just build his love for action, but also sharpened his survival skills. And here's a fun fact. Young Marvin also played the violin. Not quite what you'd expect from the future Hollywood tough guy, right? By 1942, at just 18 years old, Marvin had a new mission, joining the U.S. Marine Corps. His dad wasn't exactly thrilled about this, but Marvin was determined. He hurried through school, enlisted on August 12, 1942, and started off as a quartermaster before leveling up to scout sniper in the 4th Marine Division. Marvin wasn't just along for the ride. He participated in an impressive 20 amphibious assaults in the Pacific during World War II, battling through infamous hotspots like Kwajalein, Eniwetok, and Saipan. However, Marvin's rebellious streak followed him into the Marines. He left with the rank of Private First Class. Even though he had been a corporal, troublemaking got him demoted. It was during the 1944 Battle of Saipan that Marvin's toughness was truly tested. While scaling Mount Tapachau, his unit faced brutal fire. Marvin was hit multiple times. One bullet severed his sciatic nerve, and another struck his foot. Most of his unit didn't make it, but Marvin's grit saw him through. After over a year in recovery, he was medically discharged with a Purple Heart to his name. Still, his time in the military shaped him, leaving behind a legacy of bravery and resilience that would later influence his on-screen persona. His life after leaving the military was rough. At 22, Marvin had no clear path and ended up working as a plumber's assistant for $27 a week. Then came the plot twist of his life. While fixing a toilet at the Maverick Theater, the director, Robert Elwin, needed an emergency replacement for an actor who had fallen sick. Spotting the tall, white-haired Marvin, Elwin asked, "Ever acted before?" Marvin's legendary reply, "No, but I've lied all my life." That was all Elwin needed to hear. Marvin was handed the role of a loud Texan named Buzzy, with only 3 hours to prepare. He didn't even know basic stage directions. But Marvin had one thing down: being loud. The audience loved him, and the local paper called him a natural. Hooked on the thrill of performing, Marvin quit plumbing the very next day and started grabbing more roles at the theater. By 1947, Marvin was ready to go all in on acting. He moved back to New York City, used the GI Bill, and enrolled at the American Theater Wing, the same school that trained stars like Gregory Peck. And just like that, the rough-and-tumble kid from New York City was on his way to becoming one of Hollywood's most iconic tough guys. Lee Marvin dove straight to acting school, clocking in 6 days a week to master his craft. It wasn't easy, though, as he wrestled with accents and Shakespeare, but his raw talent shone through. His teacher said his face could tell a story all on its own, and he clicked with future Hollywood stars like Jack Warden and Rod Steiger. After 18 months of intense training, Marvin started chasing gigs. Lee Marvin's early days in Hollywood teen glamorous. His very first role in leather gloves had him playing a boxing spectator with absolutely no line. He was so nervous on set that he nearly lost his lunch. But Marvin kept at it. He stuck with it, scoring small parts in films like The Duel at Silver Creek and 12 O'Clock High. These little roles gave him the chance to observe the pros and pick up some serious acting tips along the way. Then came 1951, when Marvin landed his first credited role in You're in the Navy Now, playing Quartermaster Krause. It wasn't a huge part, but it was a big deal. The movie didn't just launch Marvin's career, it also gave Charles Bronson and Jack Warden their first big breaks. That same year, Marvin had another small role in Teresa, where his real-life combat experience helped him fit right in with the war drama. He became the go-to guy for portraying military types, even helping directors with the finer details of infantry movements and handling firearms. But it wasn't until Marvin dove into the role of a cold-blooded gangster in The Big Heat that Hollywood truly took notice. The behind-the-scenes details of how he nailed that performance will blow your mind. In 1953, Marvin starred in The Big Heat, and that's when he truly started to shake things up. Playing Vince Stone, a cold-blooded gangster, he took method acting to a whole new level by studying actual gangsters in Chicago and perfecting their mannerisms. His portrayal of menace was so spot on that he immediately caught Hollywood's attention. He had about 17 offers to play villains, and his paycheck jumped from $5,000 to $20,000 for his next gig. In the same year, Marvin starred opposite Marlon Brando in The Wild One as Chino, a rival gang leader. He brought a raw, magnetic charisma to the role, and one scene where he smashed a beer bottle over his head, completely unscripted, was so iconic that it had audiences talking for years. The film was a bit edgy, so it was banned in the UK until 1967, but it still made a massive $4,500,000 in the US, firmly establishing Marvin as Hollywood's ultimate tough guy. Between 1954 and 1956, Marvin was in high demand, cranking out 12 films, including Bad Day at Black Rock and 7 Men from Now. His characters weren't just the typical bad guys. They were layered, magnetic, and complex, helping Marvin earn $50,000 per film by 1956. Hollywood was starting to see that Lee Marvin wasn't just a villain, he was a bona fide star. In 1957, Marvin took a bold turn into television with M Squad, where he played tough-as-nails Chicago detective Frank Ballinger. The show broke new ground with gritty, on-location filming and fearless storylines tackling police corruption. Audiences ate it up.
Nick, I don't know. That hooligan? Please, not so early in the morning.
Yeah, well, he figured you'd say that. So he asked me to mention it was about Mike Cassidy.
And Marvin's earnings leaped from $5,000 to $7,500 per episode by the final season. M Squad wasn't just a hit. It solidified Marvin as a household name and proved he wasn't just a tough guy. He was a leading man. Lee Marvin didn't just make M Squad exciting. He also contributed a catchy theme song that became a hit. The show was so popular that it inspired spoofs like Police Squad. And the Naked Gun movies. But it was Marvin's role in the 1965 Western comedy Cat Ballou that truly made him a legend. Marvin played not one but two wildly different characters. Kid Shalene, a tipsy gunslinger whose aim got sharper with every drink, and Tim Strawn, a terrifying assassin rocking a silver nose. He was so dedicated to his craft that to master Shalene, he hung out in bars studying drunk folks. For Strawn, he drew on his World War II Marine days to channel a chilling presence. His performance stood out so much that when he won the 1966 Oscar, everyone, including him, was floored. Before Cat Ballou, Marvin was stuck playing villains and side roles in films like The Wild One and The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. But the Oscar changed things. Suddenly, his paycheck soared from $60,000 to a whopping $1 million per movie. Studios lined up to give him lead roles, starting with The Professionals in 1966. As Rico Fardan, a weapons-savvy expert on a daring mission in Mexico, Marvin faced 100 degrees Fahrenheit heat and even climbed a cliff for his stunts. Sharing screen time with Burt Lancaster and Claudia Cardinale, Marvin's dry wit and grit made the film a classic, earning him a Golden Globe nomination and raking in $19,500,000. In 1967, Lee Marvin became a Hollywood legend with The Dirty Dozen, where his real-life Marine background made him the perfect tough leader, and the film's success solidified his career. That same year, he showed his range in the crime thriller Point Blank, giving a brooding, action-packed performance that later became a cult classic.
What are you doing in here? What do you want? I want my buddy.
Not long after, Marvin surprised everyone by singing in the musical Paint Your Wagon with his song Wand'rin' Star, topping the UK charts. But here's the twist. After Paint Your Wagon, in 1969, Lee Marvin hit a rough patch. His career took a nosedive with a string of flops that didn't click with audiences. First up was Monty Walsh in 1970, a Western that ended up losing money. Then came Prime Cut in 1972, a violent crime thriller with Gene Hackman. It was a little too intense for most viewers and bombed at the box office. By 1973, Marvin teamed up with his Dirty Dozen director for Emperor of the North, but even that couldn't save it from tanking. It was clear Marvin's star power was dimming fast. But in 1980, Marvin made a major comeback with The Big Red One. Directed by Samuel Fuller and based on Fuller's real-life World War II experiences, the film was a perfect fit for Marvin, who played a tough-as-nails sergeant. At 56, he brought his own Marine Corps experience to the role and even mentored younger co-stars like Mark Hamill and Robert Carradine about soldier camaraderie. Critics were blown away, calling it one of Marvin's best performances. The movie, made on a limited budget, earned $24 million and got Marvin his first Golden Globe nomination in 15 years. Marvin's final big-screen outing came in 1986 with The Delta Force, where he starred alongside Chuck Norris as a grizzled military commander.
And the ATW crew is still being held on the plane.
Oh, we'll have to get them last.
Right, and I drew a map here.
Inspired by real-life events, the action-packed film saw Marvin, despite being 60 and in poor health, still doing some of his own stunts. The movie did okay at the box office, but wasn't a critical favorite. For Marvin, though, it was one last hurrah in the tough guy roles he was famous for. And just so you don't get it twisted, being a troubled tough guy on the big screen wasn't just a part of being an actor for Marvin. As you'll find out soon in this video, he also had vices that made him a troubled fellow even in real life. Off-screen, Marvin's life was heavily influenced by his battle with alcohol. His drinking was legendary and became as much a part of his persona as his tough guy image. His life was as wild and unpredictable as the characters he played on screen. His first marriage to Betty Ebling, which lasted 16 years, wasn't exactly a fairy tale. Between his heavy drinking, infidelity, and run-ins with the law, their relationship had its ups and downs. They tied the knot in 1952 and had 4 kids together: Christopher, Courtney, Cynthia, and Claudia. But after a 2-year separation, they divorced in 1967. Betty later claimed in her memoir that Marvin had an affair with actress Anne Bancroft. After his high-profile relationship with Michelle Triola, Marvin reconnected with his childhood sweetheart, Pamela Feely. They married in 1970, and their marriage lasted until his death in 1987. Pamela later wrote a book about their love story, Lee, a Romance, in 1997. His second marriage to Pamela was a more peaceful chapter in his life, lasting 17 years until his passing. But it was his relationship with Michelle Triola that kept the tabloids buzzing. They lived together for 5 years, and she even took his last name. When they split, Michelle filed the infamous Marvin versus Marvin lawsuit, claiming he promised to support her for life. The court initially gave Michelle Triola $14 million in her lawsuit against Lee Marvin, but that decision was eventually overturned. Despite their messy legal battle, Michelle maintained that she still loved Marvin up until her death in 2009. While his personal life was filled with drama, Marvin's professional struggle was also getting harder to ignore. His alcohol problem was starting to take a toll on his acting career. On the set of Ship of Fools in 1965, his co-star Vivien Leigh, who was also dealing with her own alcohol issues, reportedly complained about the smell of Lee's breath during their scenes together.
Mrs. Treadwell. Oh, excuse me. That greaser told me cabin 14. Excuse me.
Ironically, some even thought his drinking might have actually helped him deliver his Oscar-winning performance in Cat Ballou that same year, which only fed his habit more. Despite his antics, Marvin still had a magnetic charm that drew people to him, and somehow he managed to strike up a friendship with Vivien, even after she had voiced her complaints. But it wasn't just Vivian who had a tough time with him. By the time Marvin got to the professionals, his off-screen antics were more explosive than some of his on-screen stunts. And one feud in particular would go down in Hollywood history. When it came to the professionals in 1966, things were far from professional. The set was a chaotic mix of feuds, drama, and stunts, both on and off the camera, making it a wild ride for everyone involved. Things got heated. Literally, when filming started in the Mojave Desert,
I can understand you getting a crap game and losing $700 you didn't have, but how'd you lose your pants?
with the temperature skyrocketing to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Marvin, ever the war veteran and stickler for historical accuracy, insisted the film use period-correct firearms. But Burt Lancaster, his co-star, thought appearance mattered more than authenticity. What started as a difference of opinion escalated into an all-out argument. Marvin got so furious he hurled a prop gun to the ground, nearly hitting someone. Lancaster wasn't having it and confronted him, leading to a shoving match that crew members had to break up. Filming ground to a halt, costing the studio a lot of money. Director Richard Brooks tried to mediate and later had a serious talk with both stars. The next day, Marvin apologized by dramatically dropping to his knees in front of Lancaster, but it was all a joke. Unsurprisingly, this didn't help. The bad vibes still lingered, and Marvin spent the rest of the shoot deliberately messing up lines during scenes with Lancaster, forcing retakes and wasting hours. The tension peaked during a stunt scene where Lancaster, known for doing his own stunts, prepared to climb across a moving train.
Well, I'll be damned.
Most of us are.
Marvin, still hungover from the night before, decided he wanted in on the action. This triggered yet another argument, with Lancaster accusing Marvin of being reckless. The delays kept piling up and the budget ballooned. On one particularly bad day, Marvin showed up late, reeking of alcohol, and completely forgot his lines. Lancaster, already in costume and roasting under the desert sun, exploded. He publicly called Marvin a disgrace and even threatened to quit the movie. The confrontation was so intense that a young crew member burst into tears. Lancaster stormed off to his trailer, refusing to come out for hours, throwing the entire schedule into disarray. Things got so bad that the studio considered replacing Marvin, but realized it would create more problems than it solved. Meanwhile, Brooks walked a tightrope trying to keep the peace, especially after a fake punch during a fight scene left Marvin with a real bruise. Lancaster claimed it was an accident, but rumors swirled that it was payback for Marvin's mischief. The tension was so thick that extra safety measures were added for the climactic mountain scene, including keeping the actors away from each other as much as possible. Once filming wrapped, Marvin and Lancaster never worked together again. Their feud became the stuff of Hollywood legend. Years later, when asked if he'd work with Marvin again, Lancaster quipped, "I'd rather wrestle a grizzly bear." Marvin, slightly more tactful in public, privately compared working with Lancaster to acting alongside a grumpy statue. Their rivalry didn't just end their professional relationship.
Oh, Rico, buddy.
I don't deserve you. I agree.
It likely cost them future opportunities. Quite frankly, both men might have handled their differences in other ways if they could tell what the next few years had for Marvin. In 1983, while working on Gorky Park, Lee Marvin's health had deteriorated so much that he ended up in the hospital, forcing the director to hold rehearsals at his bedside. His drinking was taking a toll on both his physical health and his once solid reputation. By the end of his life, Lee Marvin's heavy smoking and drinking had taken a serious toll on his health. In December 1986, he was hospitalized for over 2 weeks due to a condition linked to coccidioidomycosis. His breathing worsened, and he had to be given steroids to help him breathe. But the treatment caused major intestinal ruptures, requiring him to undergo surgery to remove part of his colon. Sadly, Marvin passed away from a heart attack on August 29, 1980, at the age of 63. He was buried with full military honors at Arlington National Cemetery. However, Marvin's legacy didn't end with his passing. In 1998, the U.S. Postal Service honored him with a stamp featuring his iconic role in The Dirty Dozen, which sold a jaw-dropping 40 million copies in just a year. Then, in 2005, the American Film Institute ranked him 14th on their list of the 50 greatest American screen legends. And in 2012, his hometown of Woodstock, New York, unmasked a towering 7-foot bronze statue of him in his Marine Corps uniform, celebrating both his military service and his legendary Hollywood career. Marvin's unique, no-nonsense acting style left a profound mark on the industry, influencing tough guy stars like Charles Bronson and Clint Eastwood. Bronson, struggling to find his big break at 45, learned from Marvin while filming The Dirty Dozen, channeling real-life grit into his performances.
What's this about refusing to shave? Who is refusing to shave?
We are.
Who is we?
We!
Later, Bronson's stoic, commanding presence in Death Wish mirrored Marvin's tough persona. Eastwood also credited Marvin for teaching him that a single look could say more than 1,000 words, an invaluable lesson Eastwood carried into his legendary Dirty Harry roles. It's clear that Marvin's larger-than-life persona continues to inspire, with his influence reaching even the most unexpected corners of Hollywood. What do you think about Lee Marvin and his personality on and off the camera? Let us know in the comments below, and enjoy our other videos.